Hello, welcome to the Jericho Comedy Podcast. We're Jericho Comedy, yes, the same Jericho Comedy who have won all of those awards. We want to use this podcast as a way to connect our lovely audiences with some of our brilliant acts. I'm Conor McReynolds. This week I'm chatting to the fantastic Fiona Ridgewell. Jericho audiences will know Fiona. She regularly hosts Jericho Comedy. She's performed with us this summer at some of our drive-in shows, and earlier this year Fiona was nominated for Best Debut Show at the Leicester Comedy Festival. She's absolutely fantastic. Later you're going to be hearing a set recorded live at Jericho Comedy, and we'll also be playing you a message from our brilliant charity partner Oxfordshire Mind. But first, here is the fantastic Fiona Ridgewell. Fiona, hello. Thank you so much for joining me on the Jericho Comedy Podcast.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Oh, how are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Actually, considering the world circumstances, I'm quite sprightly.
Yeah. Well, you've kind of taken this seemingly in your stride a little bit. I mean, you've been doing like all the kind of new kinds of gigs there are. Like you've done a lot of online gigs, is that right? And
yeah, I did some online, yeah.
Drive-in and all that stuff. How are you finding the kind of the new world of comedy?
I miss the old world.
Yeah.
But I have enjoyed what I've done, to be honest. I did my first driving gig with Jericho, and I was so nervous. Like the sort of nerves.
You absolutely smashed it though. You were great.
Oh, thank you. The nerves that you have when you sort of start comedy, I had those again.
Yeah.
But it was really nice actually, and it they sort of bib where they're meant to laugh. So
yeah.
That almost gives you a little bit of a rhythm. And then the outdoor gigs, I feel they're sort of quite similar to a normal indoor gig.
Yeah.
I think they're a bit different for the audience, because my dad came and watched one.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and he said, I didn't get as much of the atmosphere. But obviously that's because normally in a comedy club, you're packed in, you're right next to someone, you're sort of sharing the laughter.
Yeah,
whereas he was sort of on his own. But as a performer, the outdoor gigs are sort of really nice.
Yeah, they're kind of the closest we're going to have for a little while to sort of normal gigs, aren't they?
And they felt quite normal because there was still that sort of interaction and you feed off the laughter and and you still feel like you're performing, and I enjoyed them. I still got that buzz from them, yeah.
And how about the online gigs? Have they been a bit of a mix or?
Definitely a mix. I think that really depends like how they're set up. So some of them, like the first one I did was Facebook Live.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so you're just literally like on autopilot talking into your camera and you have no idea if you're doing all right or if anyone's on the other end. So that felt really weird. And then they started doing these Zoom ones where you had a front row.
Yeah.
And you could see them and you could hear them. And that felt more like a normal gig. So I enjoyed those ones. Yeah. But I'm doing the Funny Women semi-final, I think, next week. And they're doing it online.
Oh, right. Wow.
Yeah. So
does it change the way that you kind of have to approach it if it's an online?
Well, they're almost doing like little workshops. So I think they've got like a little workshop this Thursday to sort of give tips and stuff on how to do it online.
Wow.
Because I did one gig and they didn't let us see the audience on the screen. So you could hear them, but you couldn't see them. And then they said, like, I want you to have it on, so not gallery view, whatever that is.
This is all new to me, I'm afraid.
I can't remember what it's called, but it's where you only sort of see yourself.
Okay.
But then the performer after me had it where he could see everyone, and it felt more normal because he was referring to audience members.
Yeah.
About sort of where they were. So someone was in a pub watching it. And this was early on lockdown, so he made a bit out of why is there a man in a pub? Does he live there? Does he work there? What's going on?
Yeah.
So it really depends on how it's set up by the actual sort of promoter.
Yeah, that's interesting. It's not something I've done. Like Jericho, we did run some shows with Next Up kind of earlier
Oh,
on
okay,
online, and they were really cool. Like they were really fun, but as you say, just really different.
Did you watch them?
I did watch them. Yeah, yeah.
'Cause
I
that's the
really
thing.
enjoyed them, but
Yeah.
it was just so different. So some formats worked really, really well. We had Chris Betts do his show.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And he was a bit, I think, kind of chatting to Alex and Harry beforehand, he was a bit unsure about how it would go,
Yeah.
because it so heavily involves like interaction with the audience and stuff. And actually, like, it's a format that was kind of tailor-made
Oh,
for
lovely.
online gigs. It worked so well. But other ones, I mean, they were all brilliant, but other ones you could tell that the performers kind of maybe weren't as used to being online
Yeah.
I've not done any online gigs, so I can't imagine how tricky it would be.
Oh, the worst is when your signal isn't good.
Yeah.
Because I had one and I was constantly sort of being thrown out of the gig and coming back in. And
Man.
It was so awful. And they were like, no, keep trying to come back in. And I was like sweating. I was getting really panicked because I was like,
no.
it just keeps throwing me back out. And you'd be telling a story, but you didn't know if the internet was sort of breaking it up or if anyone could hear it. It was really
I'm trying
odd.
to imagine, like, what's the real world equivalent to that? Like, they just kind of throw you off stage and you have to kind of clamber back on.
Yeah. And the lights just suddenly going off and then coming back on and the microphone turning off and then turning back on. Like, it was that sort of vibe.
Man.
It was
really difficult to maintain your flow.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds awful. I mean, before lockdown and before all of this, things were really exciting. I mean, you've got the Funny Women semi-final next week. That's super exciting. But you were at the Leicester Comedy Festival in February with
that was really nice,
your debut show, and you were nominated for Best Debut, which was amazing.
Yeah, that was quite funny actually, because I normally do Leicester, so I did it I think I've done it 3 times, but like normally with a split show. And I met my friend Maddie Campion, who's also a comedian.
Yes.
And she was like, oh, the deadline for the brochure needs to be done. Like, you have to... And I was like, oh, God, I didn't know. So we popped into Five Guys and she was doing mine for me on the internet.
Yeah.
and it says, let the judges in. And I said to her, I'll put no. And she put yes, which is why they came in. And because if it had been me filling it out, I would have put no, which is silly, really, because the worst that happens is you don't get nominated.
Yeah.
Like they're not going to put a list of the worst shows they saw. I don't think they might do.
That would be brutal. Like the comedy Razzies. That would be so horrible.
So it was actually her doing that meant I got nominated. So even when they came out, the nominations came out, someone messaged me and said, oh, congratulations. I was like, oh, what are you talking about? And then it came through. But I wasn't even expecting it because I hadn't even put myself sort of forward for it.
That's really funny. That's really funny.
But it was really nice.
The show is called Contender.
Yeah, well, was called Contender.
Tell us about it.
So basically I had signed up for a white collar boxing match.
Okay.
So it was about the sort of training for the white collar boxing match. So I've been training
I mean, obviously, I know what a white collar boxing match is because I'm a very manly man.
Yeah.
But some of our listeners might not be as manly and knowledgeable as me. Okay, I don't know what a white collar boxing match is.
So basically, it's just where you think, oh, I'm going to try something different, and you sign up to a boxing match, but it's not amateur or professional. You're doing it for charity. So you raise money for charity to do it, and you train for 10 weeks, and then you're put in a boxing ring in front of 2,000 people.
Oh my God.
And you fight each other for...
Oh my God. And you don't even get any money for it. You're raising money for someone else while you get punched in the face.
Exactly, yeah.
That's incredibly good of you.
Well, it was sort of something I wanted to do, which now looking back, I'm like, why did you want to do that? And why? But the actual fight was meant to be on the 20th of March. So so I did all the training till like the 18th of March, and then they said, oh, we can't go ahead with it, which was obviously the right call. But
Yeah.
I'll never know. I'll never know what.
Is it not something that you'll want to pick up again after all this, or?
Well, to be honest, Connor, you have to do 10 weeks of training, which includes sparring, which for you and you, the manly man, and the people listening, it's basically someone punches you in the face and you say, oh, thank you, I learnt a lot from that, I'll see you again tomorrow. And you repetitively sort of get punched in the face for 10 weeks. And it's the 10 weeks bit I don't know if I want to do again, because I did that. And towards the end, I stopped loving it, to be honest.
Yeah. I have never been punched in the face.
Yeah, I think it's something you can go without doing.
Yeah. You don't recommend it?
No, I'm not like, I'm really glad I know what that feels like now. Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it. Although, to be honest, because I've been listening to a lot of self-help in lockdown, and a lot of it is you're sort of happiest in the present moment. And I realised a lot of the things I do, comedy and boxing, it brings you into that moment. Yeah. So it weirdly is enjoyable when you're doing it. But before you get punched in the face and after, it's not great. But whilst being punched, you're like, oh,
but
I'm
moment
here.
the glove connects with your chin, you're like, this is living.
Yeah. You're making me sound crazy, but yeah, that's what it's like. It's like, oh, this is real life. Oh, this is what it feels like to feel. So yeah, it was all about that. And what was weird as well is the training. The boxing gym where I trained, the trainer was my old school bully. Like,
no
yeah,
way.
Genuinely it was. So it was a lot to do with that sort of relationship, because you have to put a lot of trust in your trainer, because
oh my God,
if it's going wrong, it's up to them to sort of throw the towel in and go like, no, get her out of there.
Yeah.
And it was almost like I had something to prove, I think, to him and to myself.
Oh my God, that's so interesting.
Yeah.
Is it something you talked about with him, or?
What, that he used to bully me?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I was like, did you remember when you used to bully me? And he was like, oh, yeah, but, I was trying to help you. All the other people I bullied have come out really well. And I was like, that is quite toxic.
Oh, my God, he sounds mad.
Yeah. But... yeah, and he said, so there's a thing called the corner, which is on the night where they're in the corner, and between the rounds they'll give you advice on what to do.
Yeah.
The next sort of round, and he's like, but I normally, I charge about 250 quid, but I'll do yours for free because I bullied you all those years. It's like, oh yeah, that makes up for the £3,000 I spent changing my teeth because you called me Ratbird for 5 years. So thank you.
Oh my God, this is absolutely mad.
Yeah, but it was interesting, and I haven't been doing the training since. I go there like once a week now because I do enjoy the boxing, but I'm not being punched in the face at the moment.
Yeah, that sounds like a nice balance to find.
Yeah, exactly. You sort of get the exercise and get your frustrations out, but you don't get hit in the face. So it's really nice.
Well, speaking of kind of being hit in the face, I guess for some people, August is usually one extended punch in the face with Edinburgh. How does it feel not being there this year?
It's definitely weird, and I don't know how I feel about. It's weird. I don't know if a lot of comedians are doing it, thinking about next year. Will I go? Like, it's almost like this doesn't exist now. So what will happen next year? But I had quite a tough year last year, so I was quite negative about Edinburgh last year, just because I was in a venue and I really struggled to get people in.
Okay.
And it was frustrating because when people came in, it was a nice show, but every day it was like, oh, there's 5 people here, or there's 6 people here, and you can sort of see your money going down the drain. And then I think it was about 5 days before the end, I stepped off a curb and my foot just broke underneath me.
Oh no! Oh gosh!
This woman went, oh, I heard that. Are you okay? And I was like, oh, I'm absolutely fine. And then sort of hobbled away. watched a show, and during this 60 minutes, my foot was just swelling up.
God.
And then I went to A&E and it was broken. And then the next day I did my show and I was like laying on a couch and I thought the audience would be like, oh wow, we're seeing something that's never happened. And they were like, get up and be funny, please. So that was the end of my Edinburgh, to be honest.
That is
just a moon boot and crutches, yeah.
Oh man! And so this year would have been you would have been bringing Contender. Was that the plan?
Yeah, it was to do my debut.
Yeah.
So I was in talks with producers and things like that, and that was all going quite well. And I was definitely nervous about it because you're investing a lot in yourself.
Yeah.
But yeah, just never know what could have been, to be honest.
And so, are you just thinking kind of that Contender was sort of a show for this particular time in your life, and that maybe it won't be relevant next year, or can you take bits of it and still? I reckon
I could maybe take bits of it, but yeah, I don't know, because basically they've rescheduled the fight for next March.
Okay.
Yeah, first of all they were like, oh, it'll be May. And then it was like, oh, this is going on longer than we expected. It'll be September. And then the last one was, it'll be December. And then about 2 days ago, they were like, it'll be March. But it's whether I want to do it. Because as well, I think, obviously I know I can be punched in the face and I know I can punch someone else. Although they did say I don't really have the killer instinct.
Oh, wow.
So that's...
Was this your bully who told you this?
Yeah, they were like, you need to be a bit angrier. Like, you need an angry voice in the back of your head. And I was like, oh, hopefully it shouts louder than all the other voices. So, yeah, it was... I don't know how it would have gone, but what I wanted to know, because I think it would have helped with comedy as well, and just for my own sort of self-confidence, if I could have held my nerve in front of 2,000 people and sort of stuck to the game plan, because I think a lot of people get in there and although they've done 10 weeks of training, all those eyes on you, you suddenly just flinging your arms about and hoping for the best. But I don't know if sort of my experience in comedy would have helped, because I'm sort of used to people looking at me.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to see how it all sort of came together.
That's such an interesting challenge to set yourself. I mean...
Yeah, I think there were easier ways to do it. I don't think it needed to be a boxing match in front of 2,000 strangers. That's
quite an extreme version of the challenge, yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is as well, if they do it next March, I don't know if you could have 2,000 people inside.
Oh, yeah, of course. I guess maybe like 600 people in a 2,000 seat venue or something.
Yeah, so I don't know, because I've probably done comedy to sort of 600 people, but I've not done it to in the thousands yet.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk to you about like when you first started. I mean, how long have you been gigging now?
It's about 6 years now.
6 years, wow. And when, like, what made you want to try it? Was there a comedian that you saw that you kind of thought, wow, they're brilliant, I could do that, or?
So I'd never really watched a lot of comedy, and then I'd always done dance and acting and singing, stuff like that. Yeah. And I was getting a bit frustrated with it, because to get on stage and to get in productions, you need to get an agent and you need to be invited into an audition room.
Yeah.
And then I went and saw my friend Joey Page, who's been doing comedy for, it must be about 15 years now, maybe.
Okay. And
we went to school together, and he invited me along to a gig, and I was chatting to him after, and he was like, yeah, you just sort of get up there. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to do that then, because it just felt like you were more in control and you could work as hard as you wanted, and if you worked hard at it, then you would eventually get somewhere with it. Whereas the dancing and acting, it was always a lot of doors being slammed in your face, and you weren't even getting to show, you know, what you'd worked on and whether you were a good dancer or actor, or whereas comedy, you get up there and you don't know who's in the audience, and you just go, well, this is what I've got, hopefully you like it.
It's such, like you say, it's such an interesting thing where comedy in some ways, obviously there are circumstances and backgrounds from which people do have a little bit of a head start.
Yeah.
I mean, the number of comedians that go to kind of Eton and private schools and stuff, obviously that gives you a certain advantage. Cambridge Footlights is another one. But generally speaking, I think it's fair to say if you write lots, gig loads, work hard, improve, that comedy is quite fair in kind of giving you next steps. Do you think that's fair to say?
Yeah, that's what it felt like, and that's what I liked about it. And I think that's sort of been my little fear in lockdown, is that if the live circuit disappears, comedy will become more like acting, where you'll get an agent and you'll need to audition to get... Because there'll have to be some sort of entry to getting on a TV show now that isn't them watching you at a gig, if the live circuit... I don't think the live circuit will disappear, but obviously where you've got time to overthink, be like, oh, is it going to end up like that, where all the actors are on some sort of with the comedians, because with acting there's something called Spotlight, and you're all in that sort of directory.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want that to happen with comedy, where we're all in a little directory and they're like, right, we need a girl. Let's look up who we've got, bring them in, let's see what they've got, and then you stand in front of three people behind a desk and tell your jokes. Like, I think that'd be awful.
That would be pretty grim, yeah. I think that would just mean I would never tell another joke again in my life, if that was it. I saw a cool thing on your Spotlight. This is a total sidetrack, but I was kind of looking you up earlier, watching some of your clips and stuff, and you've performed at the Empire in Belfast.
Oh, yeah, I did do that.
That's really cool. Tell me about that, because that's where I got married last year. I got married at the Empire.
Oh, really?
Which is, yeah, I love it so much. It's such a great venue, but I know that it's also, like, it's one of the best comedy venues in the UK, like, definitely Northern Ireland's best. So tell me about that gig.
So that, it was really nice, actually, and I was on with really nice comics. I was on with Andrew Ryan.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know Andrew Ryan? Yes, that was nice.
Not personally, but know of, yeah.
Yeah, it's really good. But I think that was one of my first... I think they got me to do like 25 minutes.
Oh, right, okay.
And it was basically for quite a big agency. And they were like, oh, we'll just fly you over to Belfast, you'll do it and come back. But obviously you're like, well, I have to be brilliant then, because you're flying me to Belfast. And so it was all right. I remember they said, oh, will you come back? And I was like, yeah. But I put a lot of pressure on myself, because I was like, this has to go well.
Yeah.
And that makes a lot of difference, I think. Whereas with gigs before, something nice has come out of them because I didn't know anyone in particular was in the audience, if you know what. So like,
yeah.
So to you it's just that gig, and you just go, oh, well, this is just tonight, and let's see if what comes out of it.
Yeah.
But whereas when you know that someone's getting feedback on you, that puts another level of pressure on it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But yeah, the venue's lovely, and they were really nice, and I got to do a longer set there, and yeah, I did enjoy it, and cool. I would go back.
If you're listening, Belfast Empire, Fiona is available.
Yeah.
Well, Fiona, you've been performing comedy for kind of 6 years or so, and one of the things that you now kind of do very kindly, you come along to Jericho Comedy quite regularly, and you'll host the show for us.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah.
And you're one of the kind of we both are very lucky to be a kind of select few people who Alex Farrow trusts to kind of MC Jericho Comedy, and I think we, like us, Harry, Alex, Chelsea Birkby, very few others kind of do it regularly. MCing as a kind of a skill set, do you think it's fair to say it's quite different to performing a kind of written set? Like, we get the thing as MCs where people will come up to us and say, oh, you should try comedy as well. And it's like, fuck you.
Yeah.
But it is flexing a different comedy muscle. Is that something that you enjoy doing, or do you prefer kind of a straight sort of set? Or
I love doing the MCing, actually. And I do think it is a different skill set, because I get a completely different completely different nerves before I go on to MC, because there's that feeling of anything could happen. Yeah. Like, and also you sort of have a responsibility to the acts to create a nice environment. Yeah. For them. So there's
that's the bit that gets me. That's the pressure of, oh God, if I'm not immediately funny and likable, then the first act's going to have a horrible time, and that is entirely my fault.
Yeah, it's weird because you have that thought in the back of your head, but actually someone said to me before, it's like you said, people say to you, oh, you should do comedy, because the audience weirdly aren't actually expecting you to be funny.
Yeah.
So you could get away with just going, this is how the night runs, we're going to have a lovely time, I'll talk to you for a bit, here's a little joke, and as long as nothing horribly goes horribly wrong in that sort of 5-10 minutes, then the night probably will run well. But in your head you're like, no, this has to be brilliant, they have to be really warm and really laughing before I can bring anyone on. But I think I almost prefer emceeing because you sort of get into a flow, and I think I'm more myself.
That's interesting.
Yeah, in a set, I try to be myself, but you are restricted by the lines that you've written for yourself. And sometimes you're telling jokes that are 2 years old. You're like, oh, I'm not really that person anymore.
Yeah.
Things have changed.
The subjects that you cover, that's really, really interesting to me, because I definitely relate to that. Like, when you're emceeing, it's a conversation, like it's an actual conversation, as opposed to kind of what we've written, which we sometimes try to mask it and make it sound like a conversation, but really it's a please only laugh when I tell you to laugh kind of thing. But it's interesting to hear you talking about how the material that you write about maybe isn't as reflective of you as a person when you're performing it, because it's kind of from a different time. Like, you cover quite a range of subjects. Like, you know, you'll talk about boxing, but you also talk about Disney princesses. And you talk about not being like a girly girl in your stand-up. Is that seems to me like such a kind of rich vein of an area to kind of explore that sort of gender, expectation of gender. Is that something you really enjoy playing around with?
Yeah, that is actually the newer stuff. So that is the stuff at the moment that I'm quite like, oh, I like this and I want to get deeper into this.
Yeah.
And what I'd be writing about, like, during lockdown is on building on those sort of topics. The older stuff is like, I'll say, oh, I got dumped. And it's like, I got dumped like 4 years ago. Like, let's stop. But it still gets a laugh, and it's still like, if a gig isn't going that well, I know if I go into that bit of material, it'll probably bring it back a bit. But like, you feel like a bit of a fraud, because although I am still single, it's not like I got dumped last week. It's like, yeah, it happened a long time ago, and he's probably forgotten about it, and I'm not that fussed about it now. But I have to say,
but that's the frustrating thing. If you've written a really good joke, then it's like, damn, like, I'd be doing my job well if I say that and they laugh. But equally, you kind of don't care anymore. Yeah,
and it's almost a disservice to yourself, because you're like, oh, I should have moved on from that. There should be something that I can put in that gap.
Yeah.
Of equal sort of, like, that's equally as good, but I haven't got it yet.
Yeah. Do you ever find when you're emceeing, like, does anything kind of come out of a conversation? Because I guess it's not improv in the sense that, like, give me a location and give me a genre of film or whatever, and then you improv a scene. But you're trying to be funny on the spot. I guess it's a form of improv, loosely speaking. Does anything ever come out of that you're like, oh, I could expand on that for a little bit?
Yeah, I did. I think I don't know if it was the last time I emceed Jericho, the time before, but my friend was training to sort of do fake tan. And she fake tanned me, and I spoke about that. But what was funny is when I turned my palms around, they were just thick brown, because she wasn't very good at it yet. But again, is that something? I think that is something I could have developed on, because a lot of my friends that are training in things, they're like, "Oh, Fiona, could we borrow you for this?" So my friend was training in sort of spirituality, like the crystals.
Oh yeah.
And she did all that on me.
Oh wow.
Yeah, and I think there is something funny in the fact that I'm always the person that they go to go, I'm not good at this yet, but would you be up for it? And I'm always the idiot that goes, yeah, do that. Because when they did my crystals, that was, she was like, oh, I've realigned all your chakras. And that was when I fell off the pavement and broke my foot. And I was like, well, you have absolutely, like, realigned them incorrectly. So, I spoke about that, but it's whether you trust it enough to go, I think that could work in a set and spend the time working on it, because sometimes I think with the MCing, the audience are like, oh wow, we're seeing something that won't be repeated, and they feel quite connected to you, and they'll really go with you on things that if you said in a set, people would be like, okay, where's the punchline?
Yeah, 100%.
I don't know if that's me thinking that, or if the audience genuinely are thinking, no, where's the punchline, please?
Yeah, I was chatting to Huge Davies last week, and he was talking about how when he did, Set List, which is like the improvised stand-up thing, and he was saying that it was really interesting because he was saying stuff that, like you've just said, if he'd written it, people would have been like, fuck you, where's the actual joke?
Yeah.
But because everybody knows, like, there's no way you could have prepared this, expectations are realigned, and they were kind of much more forgiving of it. And I think there's an element of that with MCing as well, that like you're responding. So if you're funny, it's great, but if not, you can just say, oh well, they didn't give me much to work with, type thing.
But then also I think when you watch sort of panel shows, comedians are just sort of with their mates being themselves. Like it almost looks weird sometimes if you see a comedian that you know and they put a bit in a panel, like if you're watching 8 out of 10 Cats, you know, on the comedians, and you see them do a bit that they've done on stage, you sort of see it being crowbarred in. Yeah. Whereas I find them funnier when they're looser and they are themselves.
Yeah,
Or a version of themselves. I think you're always a version of yourself when you're on stage.
Yeah.
Because if you've had a bad day, you don't walk on and go like, hi guys, I've had a terrible day, but we're going to do the comedy now. Unless that is your on-stage persona.
Yeah. Well, you talk about wanting to write about the things that kind of interest you most, and that those kind of gender expectations are one thing. What else? What would you kind of say are the areas that you most want to be writing things about, that maybe you haven't quite explored yet? I just find it a really interesting area.
So I'm writing a lot. I've been writing more about my dad, because I find him quite an interesting character.
Yeah. You spoke about him at the drive-in. It was really, really funny. Yeah,
it's just I have to. So my dad had a lot of like mental health issues. I don't know if that's how you. I worry about bigger topics, whether I can deal with them well, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Because he said something funny. I said something to him and he said, oh, well, I've been having a breakdown for about 58 years. And I said, but you're 62, so what happened, like, where's those first, are you just really bad at maths, or what happened in the first 4 years? And there was part of me as well, I always kept really, really busy. So I'd be like doing the boxing training, going to work, going to a gig, repeat, like constantly busy. And I always panicked that when I stopped, I'd find out that I had like a lot of mental health issues and I'd just been keeping busy and covering them up.
Oh, yeah.
And then this happened and I was like, oh, I think I'm all right. I seem fine. Which I don't think people want someone to go on the stage and go, oh, look, you know, most of you are waiting to inherit money off your parents, but I was waiting to inherit their mental health issues. But it turns out, skipped a generation. But I do find it quite interesting because I think his mental health issues have stopped me doing certain things. So I don't take drugs because my dad had sort of, drug-induced psychosis.
Oh,
so I'm like,
right.
Wow. Don't dabble because, you know, you that might happen to you, but then we are different people.
Yeah.
But I think that's the start of a joke that he's almost... a lot of people see their parents as a role model, and mine's become an example without even realising that he's an example. So, well, don't take drugs. Why? Well, look at you, Douglas. So I would like to talk about that, but it's just getting the confidence. And also, I don't want it... Well, I know it isn't for the sake of it, because it is something that I want to talk about.
Yeah.
But a lot of people talk about mental health now, and I don't want to seem like I'm filling a gap.
Yeah. But that sounds to me like a very kind of unique perspective on it, and also I remember one of the gigs I did very 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 early on, like I was lucky enough to be put on a lineup with someone who's like, making it a bit in TV now and stuff, and I remember speaking to that person, and I've lived with mental health problems, and that was always something I kind of thought I would talk about, and still to this day I've never written anything about it because this TV act said to me, "Oh yeah, it's really hack to talk about mental health." But this person's also gone on to be nominated for Edinburgh for a show talking about their mental health. So I'm like, hang on a minute, I thought it was hack.
Yeah,
but yeah, I think if it's interesting to you and if it's personal, because I think for me that's what stand-up should be. Like, you're the only person in the world who's qualified to talk about your worldview. Yeah. And I find it so interesting and exciting when you watch a comic and you feel like you've gotten to know them a bit better over the course of kind of 10 minutes of them saying, here's how I see the world. Do any of you relate to this? I think that's really cool.
And there always will be someone that does.
Yeah. Unless your worldview is really fucked.
In which case, just stop doing it. Stop doing comedy. But also, because there's the other way where you go, I don't know if you ever do it now, where you turn up at a gig and you look at a crowd, and it's the worst thing you could do. You judge them immediately and go, oh, well, they won't like that bit, and I'll take that bit out and I'll put those jokes in and take that subject out. But actually, you can never second guess what an audience are going to enjoy. So I think you have to go with your instincts and talk about what you want to talk about, because you're never going to know what those 200 people want to hear about. You're always going to judge it.
It's funny, I talked to like a lot of people about Jericho specifically and kind of like preconceptions they might have of an Oxford audience. Do you approach Jericho comedy differently to a gig you would do kind of on the London circuit, or do you think that's a kind of an unfair preconception to have, that an Oxford audience and a Jericho audience will like this kind of thing but not this kind of thing?
Yeah, I think it's wrong to think that. I don't know if I'd probably still go there and there's still like a little niggle in the back of my head that goes, oh, would they like that? I always think I come across slightly more stupid when I'm in Oxford, because I'll sort of start the gig and be like chatting to someone and they'll say what they do and I have no idea what it is that they do, because they're some sort of scientist.
I'm right there with you.
Yeah, I just end up shouting out, does anyone do retail here? But you can feel it slipping, but they're really like, oh, bless her, like, let's see more of this. But I remember last time thinking, Fiona, you're not as stupid as you just came across for that last hour and a half. But it just seemed like every time I spoke to someone, they'd say something that I didn't quite understand or I'd misconstrue.
Yeah.
But yeah, you definitely shouldn't judge them. And I did a gig in it wasn't for Jericho, but it was in Oxford, and they were all very well to do. And you could tell they sort of had quite a lot of money and stuff.
Right.
And I was talking about living with my mum and grandma, and I thought, oh God, they'll think, oh, bloody get a job and pay your bills and buy your own house. But they loved it, and they were really enjoying it when I was up there and really complimentary.
Yeah.
So that was me not being comfortable with my situation and going, oh, now I've got to go and tell these people that have done really well in life that I still haven't. But actually they were like, oh, okay, that's your situation. Haha.
It's such a funny thing about kind of just that being in Oxford for so many people is kind of like, has all those connotations of like, they're all rich, they're all the smartest people in the world. And actually, it's really not like that. And at Jericho, we have a lovely kind of real mix of people in the audience. Also the way that Alex books it as well. I mean, he'll have someone, like himself on the lineup who's very academic, someone like Chelsea Birkby, who can talk brilliantly about philosophy, but also talk about like the Kardashians in the same sentence.
Yeah, she's brilliant.
And then someone like me who's done performing arts degree. And so I know nothing about anything. But the audience, I never really feel judged by a kind of a Jericho audience in the way that I think it might be easy for some people to think, oh, an Oxford audience won't like this. But I think it's maybe one of the things that's so lovely about Jericho. Yeah,
definitely. And also I think one of my nights at Jericho was when I had the drunkest people I've ever had in the audience. Like, I remember thinking, and that is probably when my judgments came in, because I was like, I did not expect this in Oxford. How disgusting that this would take place in Oxford.
I would expect this of a Birmingham audience, but Oxford...
They were just sort of standing up, shoving crisps in their face, falling asleep, and I was like, excuse me, but this is not what I had prepared for. I was very relaxed and ready to have a nice chilled night with you, and I've got to organise you. But it was just 4 of them. But then in your mind you go, God, these bloody rowdy Oxford audiences. It's like, no, that was 4 people.
Yeah, my first time ever emceeing was for Jericho, and we were at the Jam Factory up near the train station, and there was a stag do in that night, and like, Jericho isn't really a stag do kind of club, and they were kind of nice enough about it, but then they just got so drunk at the end, and they just wanted to do their own thing, and I didn't have the experience to kind of control them, so they were just like in the second row, all just chatting amongst themselves, and I was like, sorry, gents, would you mind keeping it down a little bit? I totally lost it, but yeah.
But then I think people admire that because they're like, oh, God. Like, because that's how they'd be in that situation.
Yeah.
That's the you in you coming out going, I do not want to stand up to 15 stags. If I could, I would cross the road.
You'd stand a better chance of it with your boxing background, but me, I'm hopeless.
Well, no, because that was the problem with the drunk people. I started saying that I did boxing, and one of them stood up and was like, come on then.
Oh, God.
And I was like, oh, completely not what I meant. No, I was just trying to change the subject. No, please sit down. Please sit down. And it was fine, but I think for a moment the audience went, oh, my God, we thought we'd come to see comedy. We're seeing a fight. This is horrific. So I think that might have been me, like, loosening the reins a bit.
We'll have to increase the ticket price.
Yeah.
And like pay our acts a bit more if they're going to be coming along and having to fight as part of the deal.
Yeah.
Fiona, I wish we could keep talking about this for all day, but we got to go to a lovely message now from our brilliant charity partner, Oxfordshire Mind. Have a listen to this.
Are you caring for someone and struggling to cope?
Suffering with low mood or feeling anxious?
Experiencing discrimination and not sure of your options?
You are not alone. Did you know that you can ask to speak to an Oxfordshire Mind wellbeing worker through your local GP practice? A wellbeing worker can help you to identify what is important to you, offer time, space and support for you to work out the positive changes you want to make, and support you to reach those goals. Tell you about relevant services you can access to improve your well-being and support you with making referrals. Our service is currently available over the phone to anyone registered with a participating GP practice in the City and South West Oxfordshire. For more information, please ask at your GP practice or call the Oxfordshire Mind information line on 01865 247 788.
All right, Fiona, now it's time for pressing questions. This is the part of the podcast where the fun stops and the interrogation begins. I'm going to ask a series of challenging, thought-provoking questions, and all I need from you are some honest answers. Can you do that?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
I always like to hear the fear in people's voice at the start of this bit. All right, Fiona, question 1. Do you have an irrational hatred of any famous people?
These are on the spot. Irrational hatred. No, I don't. There is someone that I always say, I just don't like them. But I can't remember who it is, but whenever they come on the telly, I just don't like them. I just can't take to them. But like, I don't troll them on the internet. But if they're on the television, I'll go, not for me. No, there's nothing they can do now to make me like them. If I remember during this conversation, if it comes to me, I'll tell you who it is.
Just blurt out a name and we'll edit it in, make it sound seamless. Do you have an irrational hatred? Yes. Barbara Windsor. Actually, that was a bad example. She's just gone into a home. Sorry, Bab, if you're listening. I don't know how or why I know that about Barbara Windsor. Who knew that I was such a Barbara Windsor superfan?
I know, but I do always worry that I will say someone like that and the other person will have more knowledge and go, you know that they've just gone into a home, Fiona. And I'm like, I did not know that, actually.
I was speaking to one of our acts at one of our lovely driving gigs recently, and I mentioned a comedian, and I won't name the comedian, but I mentioned them, and this other act was like, oh yeah, you know, they're like super right-wing and nasty. And I was like, what?
What?
I never would have guessed that. And he was like, oh yeah, real piece of shit. And then about 2 weeks after the gig, I got a message from this act saying, I'm really sorry, I confused that person with this person. And I was like, oh, you've gone above and beyond messaging me. Otherwise, I would have spent the rest of my life thinking they were real shithound.
I reckon
So,
I've made that faux pas before.
Well, it's good that you're not naming any famous person that you've got an irrational hatred for.
Yeah,
now.
no, I can't.
That makes you
think
seem
who
like
it
a
is.
much nicer person than I am. That's
Why, have
good.
you got one?
Oh, I've got loads, yeah.
Really?
And I feel really problematic because I think the main person who I just can't stand is a woman, and that just makes me feel really hateful. But it's Amanda Seyfried, who was in like...
Oh, I watched her in Mamma Mia yesterday.
Oh, God
yet
almighty.
I didn't
She
love
ruined
her.
the Les Mis film for me. And I mean, that's saying something when Russell Crowe's in it.
Yeah.
But Amanda Seyfried's singing voice, she sounds like Crazy Frog.
But I
And it
was
just totally
saying,
ruined
though,
it for
I
me.
think anything that's gone from being a musical and then turned into a film doesn't really work that well. Whereas
No.
if you've got like The Little Shop of Horrors, which started as a film and then went to a musical on stage,
Oh, yeah.
that works really well.
Oh, that's interesting. There's a
But-
whole thesis to be written on that.
Yeah, because I don't enjoy the Les Mis film, and the Cats film was super awful.
It looked mad. I kind of feel like
Yeah.
I want to take mushrooms. I've never taken drugs in my life, but I want to take mushrooms before I watch Cats.
You wouldn't need to. You don't need to. Like, they're all covered in fur, but then I think like Judi Dench has still got a wedding ring on or something, where they just didn't quite cover it up. It's really odd. It's
That's
just
so
a whole
funny.
juxtaposition.
Oh, it looks so bad. Sorry, Tom Hooper, if you're listening, but, you know, I'm sure you read worse about it.
And also, if you do a Cats 2, we'll be in it. We're
Oh,
happy
yeah,
to-
we are very available.
Yeah.
Fiona, if you had to come up with the next big crisp flavour, what would it be?
Next big crisp. Let's try something weird like a candy floss crisp.
Oh, a sweet crisp.
Yeah, why not?
That is revolutionary.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Only because I read this morning that candy floss was created by a dentist.
Ah, the old supply and demand thing.
I don't know. Yeah.
Sneaky bastard. How do you drum up more business for yourself? Just rot everyone's teeth.
One's teeth. Yeah. So
Oh,
candy
what a
floss
sneaky
crisp. We'll go with that. Bit of texture to it.
The perfect marriage of candy floss and potato. That's what
I do not
everyone's
enjoy
wanted, but
these
nobody had the
quick-fire
guts to say.
questions.
All right,
Can you
Fiona,
tell?
how do you feel about clowns?
Clowns. Oh, I've not got a fear of clowns.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. I just like magicians more. Clowns
This
any
sounds
day of
like
the week.
there's a story behind this. Like,
Do you
did
know
a
what?
magician wrong you?
Well, yeah. My ex-boyfriend was a magician.
Oh yeah, okay.
Like, not just like a magician, like a hobby. And then during lockdown, one of his card videos went viral, and I've never disliked a magician more. But if a clown video went viral, I'd be sharing that all over the shop, but not the magician videos. So that's what happened.
So we're saying clowns, you're okay, but fuck you, magician.
Yeah.
I think we can make that the official policy of Jericho Comedy.
Yeah,
They
thank you. No magicians allowed.
Fiona, what's the strangest injury you've ever sustained?
Strangest injury. Well, when I was about 2, I don't know if I've got a scar on my eye.
Oh.
I walked into the patio door and split my face open.
Oh no!
But that too, yeah. But then the week after, you've got to question the parenting, because the week after, I went behind the sofa and came out, and I'd smashed up my forehead as well. So, and my mum's still, her excuse is still, I don't really know what you did. Well, but you're the parent. You should 100% know what I was doing when I was 2 years old. So they're not particularly strange, but they just happened too close together. and there's pictures of like this 2-year-old with a black eye and stitches along her cheek and stitches along her forehead, which I guess from a stranger's point of view you'd think that was one accident, but it was just 2 accidents very close together. And the first one was my mum's like, oh, well, I left you with your grandma. It's your grandma's fault. So they just, no, I don't really know what happened, to be honest, but they all just passed the blame.
I like that kind of no responsibility taken. That's just, that's my approach to things.
I just noticed it. I have got a weird scar on my wrist as well, where I fell off a bike and just a load of gravel stayed in my arm. So
oh, no.
There's that, but nothing weird.
You go through all of this and you still want to be punched in the face. It's an amazing thing, Fiona. Like, you've endured more hardships physically than I could ever dream of, and I'm still never volunteering myself to get punched. Very impressive. Fiona, do you think you'll ever meet Pop Idol winner Will Young?
Do you know what? I've never thought about it, weirdly.
No.
But I think I would.
Yeah?
Yeah, because I just think everyone's like, you know that what is it? Is it 8 Steps to Kevin Bacon or something? 8 Steps? No, it's not 8 Steps. What is it?
It kind of makes it sound like it's an alcohol recovery thing. Like 8 Steps to Kevin Bacon. It's like, you're a pisshead, but with these 8 steps, you can be Kevin Bacon.
Kevin Bacon. That's what I base my life on. The 8 Steps of Kevin Bacon. It's not that. It's called something else.
The 6 degrees of separation. Is that what you're talking about? I know. From now on, I'm calling it 8 Steps to Kevin Bacon.
You said all the Oxford people weren't smarty pants. 6 degrees of separation.
I feel we've got to play this game now. What's the 8 steps from Fiona Ridgewell to Kevin Bacon then?
Oh, right. Well, I haven't really done it with Kevin Bacon, but I'm very close to Kylie Minogue.
Oh, go on.
So I did a dance class and the teacher was her choreographer. So that means was that 1 degree away from Kylie Minogue?
I think 2. 1 would be if you were
I was
being taught dance by Kylie.
Well, then maybe I won't ever meet Will Young, because I think I've always done myself 1 step closer than I thought I was. Which is unfortunate, because the more I'm talking about it, the further away I'm getting from these people. But yeah, I just think everything seems related. Like, I've been listening to a lot of podcasts recently.
Oh, yeah.
And I was listening to ones about drug smugglers.
Oh.
But I was listening to one about the song "The Wind of Change," and how that I don't know, it did something in the Cold War. Connor, forgive me, I listened to a lot of podcasts, but basically they were talking about their manager, and then in the drug smuggling podcast, turns out their manager was in this big drug smuggling ring thing, and it was like, but I hadn't listened to them because they were connected podcasts. His name just popped up again, so I feel like people just seem to pop up. That's
amazing. So the takeaway message from this is that Will Young is going to drug smuggle and somehow be 8 steps connected to Kevin Bacon. I might be conflating things. I don't have a good memory.
And my dad will probably buy some drugs off of Will Young, and that's how I'll meet him. That's the horrific truth of what we found out on this podcast.
All right, Fiona, what is the best kind of bread?
Best kind of bread, dough balls.
Oh yeah, brilliant.
Yeah,
that's an excellent choice.
Thank you.
I did not factor dough balls into my thinking.
Yeah, I didn't know this is where I'd excel, to be honest. Dough balls. All right. Bit of garlic butter, done.
Oh, lovely stuff. Fiona, what's the weirdest noise you can make?
The weirdest noise. Weird. What? Shall I try some?
I would love it if you would. That was one.
Does that count? I haven't got
That's
any.
Brilliant. What I'm really hoping now is that someone makes that their ringtone. A real Jericho Comedy Podcast hardcore fan.
Yeah. No, I snort when I laugh, which is not great, but none that anyone said, God, that's really odd. Oh, and I wear a retainer at night, so it's probably more at night.
Oh, you need to... Oh, no, that was... I was going to say you need to record yourself at night and then send us that. And then that occurred to me that
No.
might be the creepiest thing anyone's ever said to anyone.
Yeah.
Oh, that's deeply unfortunate. So we just found out how I get cancelled.
Yeah. Hi.
All right, Fiona, final question. On the 10th day of Christmas, what did my true love give to me?
Probably the 10 of spades. That was because he was a shitty magician. No. Is that what I'd like for Christmas? 10 gigs at the moment. In
10
the diary.
gigs, yes, please.
Yeah.
The actual answer is 10 lords a leaping.
Oh, I was meant to guess.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes they're just trivia questions.
Oh, you didn't set that up for me.
That was very bad hosting on my part. I will accept the blame for that.
Oh, I'm such an idiot. Okay.
Here at Jericho Comedy, we've been having a really lovely time over the summer, performing outdoors, online, to audiences in their cars, and even to audiences on punts, in a move that was almost Oxford self-parody. It's been really, really fun, but what we wouldn't give to be back safely indoors with our lovely audiences, all having a refreshing beverage and squeezed comfortably into the Jericho Cafe or Common Ground. So we're going to magically transport you now back to Jericho Comedy, but not just any Jericho Comedy show. The highlight of the year in the Jericho Comedy calendar is always our annual gala performances for Oxfordshire Mind. So here's a clip recorded live at the Oxford Playhouse in January of this year from Jericho Comedy's very own Harry Housam.
Fantastic, it's very nice to be here. I thought I'd dress up for the gala, but that was before my partner on the way out of the house said that I had dressed like a Spanish dance teacher. Ole! It's good to be here. Oxford is my favourite place in the world to do shows. It is a wonderful city. It's brilliant. You know Oxford is posh. Well, you know a town is posh when it has a permanent cheesemonger. Cheese, by the way, very much the best kind of monger. It goes downhill very rapidly after that. Cheesemonger, fishmonger, ironmonger, warmonger, fearmonger. What the hell is mongering that involves all of those things? Knives are involved? Don't really know. I do enjoy living in Oxford. There's some weird quirks living in Oxford. For instance, give me a cheer if you live in Oxford. Give me a cheer if you don't live in Oxford. So every year in Oxford, there's a Christmas tree sale, and it's run by the Sea Cadets. Have several problems with this. First of all, trees. Those are not seafaring goods. Secondly, Oxford, Sea Cadets. Oxford is landlocked. How fucking lost are those Sea Cadets? God, we've got to send the land cadets to save them. Bit of a weird one. I do like living in Oxford. It's a very middle-class place to live. Give you an illustration of how middle-class Oxford is. I once had my wallet stolen, and it turned up a few days later, emptied of all the cash, in a recycling bin. That's how middle-class Oxford is. Even the thieves recycle their stolen goods. It's important to be an environmentalist. I do respect the thieves for that. It's hard to be an environmentalist. There was a study published about a year ago by the government that said the most environmentally friendly thing that you can do, the most environmentally friendly thing that I can do, is to have one fewer child. Which is difficult for me because I don't have any children. One fewer child than no children is -1 children. I have to kill a child. But I'm willing to do it because I love the environment. Do like living in Oxford. It's a fun place to live. I live in what some people refer to as the rough part of Oxford, which is, as I have explained to them, that is an oxymoron. You can't have the rough part of Oxford that is like having the dangerous end of a spoon. Round of applause for dangerous end of a spoon. No, I wasn't asking for one. I was more asking why that one guy was like, that's the one. That's it, I'm out. No, I do really like living in Oxford. It's like we do live in the rough end, and my housemate's quite worried about that. We don't have a burglar alarm. All we have is a series of motion-activated air fresheners. All we can do is pray to God that the thieves are allergic to lavender. He's a bit of a weirdo, my housemate. He's a bit of a weirdo. I once came home and he was so high that he was pouring all of my apple juice onto the apple tree in the garden. Because, and I quote, he wanted to see what a cannibal tree looked like. A cannibal tree, I will tell you, looks exactly like a regular apple tree, but without my fucking apple juice. Frustrating. I do like, the main downside of living in Oxford is it's very expensive. Would you agree, people who live in Oxford? Yeah. Very expensive. Depressing thing happened the other day. I still have a right move alert for properties in my area. Came up and said, Harry, we have found a property that in your area that you can afford. The property in my area that I could afford was a car parking space. Which is depressing. What's more depressing is the fact that for £50 a month, I very much considered living in a car parking space. Buy a tent, they don't cost that much. I don't live in a car parking space, don't worry. I do like living in Oxford. The main reason I came here in the first place is I came here to study. I came to study archaeology, which is why I have this beard, and no employment prospects. Thank you. If anyone has any jobs, please speak to me afterwards. It's interesting. Archaeology is an interesting subject. For those of you who don't really know the distinction between archaeology and other history, history is everything that's written down. Archaeology is everything that's in the ground. That's how it works. Or another way of remembering that is archaeology is rubbish. Give you another illustration if you don't really understand. If I were to look through your bins tomorrow, I would be a stalker, and that's a felony. If I were to look through your bins in 100 years' time, I'm an academic. That's how it works, that's how it works. People are always asking me, as somebody who studied archaeology, Harry, if you had a time machine, what moment in time would you go back to? They think I'm going to say something nerdy, like the Dark Ages, but no, if I had a time machine, I would go back to the moment that Sigmund Freud had to explain the Oedipus complex to his parents. What an amazing conversation that would have been. I like to think it was around the Christmas dinner table, just to maximise awkwardness. No, the moment I would go back to, by far, is actually a place. I would go back to the biblical city of Sodom. Sodomy, the act of anal sex, is named after the city. How much of a type of sex do you have to do as a city that they name it after you? How much rimming would you have to do in Oxford before they renamed rimming Oxfording? Come find me after the show, we'll find out. Did like studying archaeology. It's quite interesting. One of my tutors was a primatologist. Primatologists, they study ancient human behaviour, very old human behaviour, by studying our closest evolutionary ancestors, primates. So they try and look at their behaviour now to work out what our behaviour was like in the long past. My tutor used to work at London Zoo. He worked on 2 enclosures. He said, Harry, I worked on 2 enclosures, the chimpanzees and the orangutans. Now, both very intelligent animals. We gave them both gymnasiums, new climbing frames. Very intelligent creatures. Now, the orangutans, they took apart their gymnasium and used the metal poles to construct a ladder, and they escaped from their enclosure. Very intelligent creatures. The chimpanzees, also very intelligent creatures. They took apart their climbing frame and used the metal poles to beat the living shit out of one another. It's at this point in the tutorial that my tutor turns to me and he says, Harry, of the 2, who do you think we're more closely related to? I didn't like what he was insinuating, so I beat the living shit out of him with a metal pole. You guys have been absolutely fantastic. I'm quite difficult. I find it quite hard sometimes to say goodbye. I feel it's quite a difficult thing. I'm all right with it virtually, digitally. Love an email sign-off. Love a good email sign-off. Give me a cheers if you ever end your email like myself with many thanks. Fantastic. Give me a cheer if you are more of a kind regards. Best wishes. The most arrogant of the bunch. Best wishes. You wish every single person you've emailed the best of wishes. You've got no wishes left, guys. I like many thanks, right? It's modest, you know. How many thanks? 1, 2. Many thanks. It's good. It's not my favourite email sign-off. My favourite, I was once emailing a guy called Luke, who accidentally put his name before the email sign-off, which resulted in lukewarm regards. I did take that as a personal slight. Also raises the good questions about what temperature your regards should be at. If you want to sex up an email, definitely go with hot regards. Ooh, hot regards, I like that. My favourite sign-off I've ever seen by far, though, was my boss once accidentally had a typo in her sign-off, and she sent, instead of kind regards, she sent king regards. The monarch of all goodbyes, king regards.
All right, Fiona, now it's time for a game called Fact or Fiction. We're going to take it in turns to say 3 pieces of information which are either unbelievably true or total nonsense. Fiona, if you fool me, you get a point, but if I guess correctly, I get a point. Does that sound good?
Yes. I'm ready for this one, yeah.
Well, you're the guest, so you can go first.
Okay. So, cows can sleep standing up, but they can only dream when they're lying down.
Oh my God, that is absolutely brilliant. I have no idea. I am going to say that is fact because I don't think I've ever wanted anything to be that true as much as I want this to be true.
Yeah, it's true.
Oh, that's true. Brilliant!
Well, I say it's true. I got it off the internet, so it could be false, but it said it was true.
Everything on the internet is true. That's a fantastic fact. All right, well, my first fact is that the Indonesian sparrow is the only bird with no blood.
I'm just going to go with false because of everything I've learned in life up until this point.
That is a very sound reasoning, and that is absolutely true. That is complete fiction.
Oh, good. I thought you were saying it's absolutely true, and I was like, I've not nailed that. Yes, okay.
Yes, I totally made up the Indonesian sparrow having
So
no
we're on a
blood.
point each.
One each. It's
Lovely.
all to play for. So your turn now.
Okay. Children of identical twins are genetically siblings, not cousins.
That is mad. The problem with this game is that if I get it wrong, I sound so stupid.
Yeah.
This is so high stakes. I'm going to say that's fiction.
That's true.
No way!
Again from the internet, so you'll probably get a few Oxford graduates call in and be like,
Yeah.
that is
Email us if that's wrong.
That is the most false thing I've ever heard.
They're genetically siblings.
I guess because
rather
their
than
DNA's so close.
Yeah.
No? Is that right? I don't know.
It would surely depend on the other parent as well.
Yeah.
But that I'm willing to believe it.
It's on the internet.
This is the level of science that I was taught in a performing arts degree. I am
Exactly.
willing to go with that.
And I did a dance degree, so we're on the same.
We're well covered on the sciences here. All right, well, my second fact is that the actors who played Mickey and Minnie Mouse were married in real life.
Ooh, I reckon false.
You think that's fiction?
Yeah, I reckon maybe they're the same person.
Oh, interesting. It is, in fact, true. It's fact. The actors who originally played Mickey and Minnie Mouse were married in real life. And the actor who played Minnie Mouse also voiced Martin Prince on The Simpsons.
Oh.
Yeah, and she was married to the actor who played Mickey Mouse. So that, again, this is all internet, but it's QI, like the QI Twitter feed. So
Yeah.
QI wouldn't lie to me, would they?
No, I don't
That
think
has to
so.
be true. All right, so it's two each. So it's all to play for going into the final round. Okay, Fiona, your
Okay.
last fact.
Female horses have way more teeth than their male counterparts.
I'm trying to think of... Oh, no, okay. So my thought process was that at some point they all had the same number of teeth, but why are men so stupid that they're losing their teeth? But I don't think that's what you're saying. Otherwise, you'd have said male horses lose more teeth than female
Yeah.
horses.
I guess,
So
or the internet
I'm-
would have said that.
Yeah. Do female horses have more teeth than male horses? Do they need more teeth? Why would they need more teeth? I don't think that...
I don't know. Do men and women have different amount of teeth, or do we all have the same?
Oh, this is why we need Alex Farrow here. Alex would have like 100 different facts about teeth, and I am still someone who's like, maybe the tooth fairy's real.
Yeah. I still leave them under my pillow.
Yeah, like has science definitively proved there's no tooth fairy? I am going to say that this is fiction. I think. Oh, go on. Fiction. Final
No,
answer.
what do you think? What do you think?
I think that all horses eat the same way, and so they probably all have the same number of teeth.
Well, see, you're correct that it is fiction, but your logic is wrong because I just swapped the male and female around. So male horses actually have way more teeth than their female counterparts.
Extraordinary.
Because I thought, how can I make it hard for him to guess? So I just swapped the two genders round.
You relied on me. Yeah, okay.
But also what I'm not sure I believe is when like there's a fact on the internet that uses the phrase just way more. Like it's not like it's not. Do you know what I mean? It's not a lot of
It
substance.
doesn't
It's
sound like
it's
it's
just
come
way
from
more.
like an Oxford University journal or something. It's like
Yeah.
a peer review found that they have way more.
Yeah. It's like, is this really? Who wrote this?
Well, if we have any horse experts listening to the podcast, if you get in touch with us and tell us how many more is way more, we will tweet it from the Jericho Comedy Twitter
Oh,
account.
nice.
All right, well, my final fact, so this is for the draw, Fiona, no pressure.
Okay.
Actor Dick Van Dyke is older than sliced bread.
What?
Actor Dick Van Dyke is older than sliced bread. So like a loaf that's sold pre-sliced.
So a loaf that's cut.
Yeah. So you know when you buy a loaf and it's
So they used
sliced,
to sell them without cutting them.
Well, that's what I'm speculating. The actor Dick Van Dyke is older than the concept of pre-sliced bread.
So if you've made it up, I feel like you're a lunatic. Because to sit there and go, what could I say? So I'm going to say that's true because I just think, yeah, why would you think of that?
That's very good reasoning. And it is fact, yeah.
Yay!
Dick Van Dyke was born in 1925, but the first sliced loaf of bread was sold in 1928.
And
So-
someone's written that down somewhere, haven't they?
Someone has written that down. We're coming up to the big slice-anniversary in 2028.
My God.
We're going to have a huge celebration, like a massive toast party or something.
Yeah, no dough balls that day.
So there we go.
Wow.
Fact or fiction has ended 3 points apiece. That's how I like it. No winners, no losers. We just had fun learning.
Yes.
Fiona, before we finish up, do you have anything, like how can we stay in touch with you and see some of your content and hear more from you?
I would say I'm probably most active on Instagram, so it's Fiona_Ridgewell. And I'm on Twitter at Fiona Ridgewell, and that's where I'll sort of retweet my gigs and where I'm going to be.
Brilliant. Well, we will post links to those in the episode description.
Lovely.
For now, Fiona, thank you so much for joining us on the Jericho Podcast. It was really fun, and we can't wait to see you again soon. Now that indoor gigs are allowed, who knows? Maybe we'll see you indoors somewhere in the next little while. That would be exciting. Thanks so much, Fiona. Speak to you soon.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye.
There we go. That was the superb Fiona Ridgewell. We'll add the links you need to follow Fiona on Twitter and Instagram into the episode description. Make sure you follow her to find out where and when you can see her performing live. Make sure you also visit www.jerichocomedy.com for all the info you need to see our brilliant live shows over the next few weeks. We'll be doing drive-ins, outdoor shows, and keep an eye on our social media and our mailing list this week for some very exciting news about upcoming indoor shows. If you're enjoying the podcast, please do tell your friends about it. Share it on social media, like us, rate us, all that stuff. We love making this podcast, and we'd be super grateful if you'd help us reach as many of our lovely audience members as possible with it. You can also check out our other new podcast, The Dinner Party, wherever you get your podcasts. As ever, if you can donate a bit of money toward the vital work that Oxfordshire Mind are doing, we'd be ever so grateful. We've raised over £70,000 in the last few years, but our regular shows have been disrupted, obviously, at the moment, so also our ability to fundraise has been affected. So please do follow the link in the episode description. Donate a couple of quid. That would make you a legit hero. We'll be back with another episode next week, but until then, thanks so much for listening, and bye-bye.